I was watching Rachel yesterday, and this guy, Guy Cecil from Priorities USA, he's leaving Priorities USA as a chair. But I mean, he had some prescient words that I think Democrats need to take a hold of. I love some of the analysis that he gave. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
You feel like the Democratic Party has ground that it can reasonably make up, not just places where the Democratic Party is behind, but places where the Democratic Party can do it, can catch up to the Republicans on some of these sort of structural long-term projects that, for example, the Federalist Society and other groups on the right have had an advantage.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great place to start, right? They are now out in the open about what their intentions are. There are billions and their larger cohort of leaders, right? There's over $1.4 billion being invested in essentially creating Federalist societies that aren't just focused on the courts, but are focused on Silicon Valley, are focused on education, are focused on technology. We are not prepared to combat that. And we're not prepared to go on the offensive because so much of our infrastructure is based on an issue or a candidate. Climate's my number one issue. Criminal justice is my number one issue. I liked Barack Obama, but I wasn't sure about Hillary Clinton. Not enough of our focus is on how do we make sure that we are laying the ideological ground through all of the various levers, Silicon Valley, entertainment, education, to win. The second, I think, is more of an internal look at how we communicate. Look, our party is diverse and we're unwieldy, but part of that comes because we are much more diverse than the Republican Party. There are more backgrounds. There are a lot of issues that we care passionately about. And one of my concerns is that we have fetishized the use of data and analytics. We think that there is a magic word or issue, and we create caricatures out of our voters. And what I think that does is make it more difficult for us to communicate across the diversity of our party. Black voters care about criminal justice reform, no doubt. They also care about good paying jobs, healthcare, and education, in the same way that Latino families and Asian families and gay families and white families do. But we're not communicating in that way. We are turning our voters into a confederacy of caricatures instead of presenting a broader image about what we want the country to be.
The other thing that the structural approach that you're describing on the right, though, the other thing they've done is the sort of personnel as policy approach,
yes,
which is to make sure that in every influential institution and every feeder institution that leads to those institutions, you've got ideologically committed people who, yes, over the course of their entire career, are going to have set a bead on achieving the ideological goals of the movement. Yep. The right thinks the left does that. The left does not do that. And that sort of work is the sort of thing that you have to plan literally a generation ahead for.
Yes. I think there's two things that are really important. Number one, there's a mythology that we're the party of big government, Republicans are the party of small, limited government. That is actually not true. Republicans are the party of limited government when it comes to helping the middle class, preserving, our ability to take care of the poor, making sure that Social Security is in place. And in all of those instances, they want a very limited small government, but they want a large activist government when it comes to litigating my marriage to my husband, controlling the uterus of American women, protecting the right of domestic abusers to have access to guns. I feel like we need to change the narrative a bit on how we view the Republican Party. The entire evangelical movement, I used to be a Baptist minister before I got into politics. The entire evangelical conservative movement sold their soul for one issue, and they apologized for Donald Trump for 6 years and continue to do so because they had their eye on the long-term ball, which was destroying Roe v. Wade, nationalizing a ban on abortion. We need to think more long-term about how we are going to engage at every level of the ballot and across all of these different spheres of influence, because the reality is most Americans agree with us on most issues. So we have to ask ourselves, whose fault is it that we're not effectively communicating those things? And I don't want to overstate the problem. We have a Democratic president, we have a Democratic Senate. It's easy for, our love language is anxiety in the Democratic Party. But I do think it's important for us just to take a step back and say, okay, what can we do better? Because we really are trying to make our country fairer and more prosperous and more just. And now our job is to do the hard work to make that happen.
I think that was the most important segment on TV on cable news TV yesterday. If you are a progressive, I think that was the most important message, the most important statement, the most important analysis that we need to take heed of. Now, look, everything that he said are the things that I try to do, but hearing it from him in the coherent manner in which he points that out, I think it's better. I don't think I've heard it in such a well-defined manner in one place before. So, Guy Cecil, thank you, and trust that I have learned a few tactics from what you've said. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.